All right, thanks for tuning in to OFN College Football Weekly with Mitch Light of Athlon Sports for this Friday, the 25th of October, 2019, on the Ourlads Football Radio Network at ourlads.com. The king of online football depth charts and college football scouting. OFN College Football Weekly is brought to you by Athlon Sports, the leading publisher of preseason annuals for more than 50 years, sold in 60,000 outlets nationwide. And that's where my co-host Mitch Light is the managing editor. Mitch, how about those commies from Vandy? Is that your team, by the way?
What's my alma mater? So yes,
Yes,
it's definitely
that's your
my
team.
team.
All right.
Yes,
Where'd you
when,
graduate? What was your major?
economics in history.
Economics. Okay.
So nothing to do with what I'm
That's what
doing
I
right
was thinking. What
Yes.
happened there?
Yeah. So no journalism school at Vanderbilt. I was a sports editor of the Vanderbilt Hustler.
Oh,
The name of the
okay.
school.
It's still there. The Hustler.
And my daughter's actually a freshman at Vanderbilt and wrote her first story for the
That
Vanderbilt Hustler.
is
So she's a
awesome.
legacy. She's a legacy.
All
So I was
right.
that's excited to see that.
Congratulations.
So yeah,
Yes.
I was more excited to see Vanderbilt beat Missouri than no, I'm just kidding. I was more proud of my daughter,
Yeah, I
but
would
I'm
hope so.
happy to see Vanderbilt beat Missouri. Much needed win for Derek Mason.
Yes, and a crazy win, just like look, it's college football. We got South Carolina with the crazy win a couple of weeks ago. We got Illinois upsetting Wisconsin. You can't get more crazy than that. And now Wisconsin has to regroup in a matter of days to take on one of the toughest teams in college football in a rivalry that, even though Ohio State has won, I think 6 straight, something like that. Six straight. 5 of those have been by 7 points or less.
Yeah, I really wish this game were in Madison. I would feel better. I'm just triple confirming. Yes, it is in Columbus. Triple. I'd feel a lot better about Wisconsin's chances. And you can dismiss the Illinois game, and I get it. They, whatever, look ahead and all that. But you'd feel much better about Wisconsin's chances if they would have disposed of Illinois like they had, their other opponents. They had 4 shutouts in 6 games, and we were all a little skeptical because of the schedule. But they had been, along with Ohio State and maybe LSU, and Oklahoma, the most dominant teams in the country. And all you can do is take care of your schedule, and that's what they did to date. I like Ohio State in this game, though, Greg. I just think they are so good in every facet of the game. Ryan Day's done a tremendous job, taking over for Urban Meyer. The offense is dynamite. They're utilizing all their weapons, and I just think they can make Wisconsin a little bit too one-dimensional. And even if if they take away that one dimension and make Jonathan Taylor work hard and fight for his yards and make the passing attack beat them, I just think that puts the Ohio State defense in a really good spot.
Yeah, this is not Wisconsin can't win a high-scoring game. They need this game to be an ugly war of attrition. You've got on one hand Chase Young for Ohio State, and on the other end you got Chris Orr and those 3 linebackers at Wisconsin. So and with Jim Leonard, who I really think Jim Leonard next year will be a head coach somewhere.
I think there's a lot of Wisconsin fans who would like Jim Leonard to be the Wisconsin head coach, probably.
And you know what? I guess a lot's going to depend on whether or not they can win a game like this or the Big Ten championship.
I'd be shocked. Paul Chryst, the way they bounce back this year, I think they've answered any questions as a program going forward. I'd be stunned if something happened to Paul Chryst. Maybe Paul Chryst would become the offensive coordinator. Just kidding there. I can't say head coach getting demoted like that. But, he clearly is one of the up-and-coming coaches in the game and, a great player. And, I agree. I think he'll be a head coach in the next few years.
Number 1 ranked defense in the nation versus number 2. We'll see how it all works out. 14-point spread. This is your 3-star pick of the week. You're taking Ohio State. What I'm going to do is I think there's a good chance, a decent chance, that we could get an upset between 2 of those big games on Saturday. That's and
really,
yeah, Wisconsin and Auburn.
Who do you give a better chance to?
Auburn.
Okay,
would you agree with that?
I think I agree, and I think from a matchup standpoint, Auburn's defensive line. LSU played Florida, but Florida had some injuries on that defensive line. I think Auburn's better on the defensive line.
Oh yeah.
I think they will face pressure that they haven't faced yet this year. Will it matter? I don't know. I think they're good enough offensively that it won't matter. So obviously, I'm going to pick LSU, But I'm with you. If you told me to pick an upset in those two big games, I'd pick Auburn.
Yeah, so like the way that when I do my handicapping, a lot of times I'll put upsets up on the board that not necessarily oh yeah, I think they're going to win, but I think there's a shot, and I'm playing the numbers game, and that's what I'm doing by putting both of those into my upsets this week. I'm hoping to get 1 out of 2. All I got to do is get 1 out of 2, and I'm making money off the money line. And with the Auburn LSU game, let's also keep in mind that besides of course rivalry, but these have been really close games the last couple of years. I mean, Auburn has let these
But Auburn has
games.
not won in 20 years in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Auburn has let these games slip by the last couple of years. I mean, they had a 20-0 lead in 2017. It was 23-7 with a minute left in the first half. It was 23-14 early fourth quarter when DJ Shark returned a punt for a touchdown, and then they gave up the field goal late. They also blew a 21-10 lead late in the third quarter last year. So this has been a close rivalry. It's a 10.5-point spread. And if you look at LSU, they got the Alabama game coming up in a couple of weeks. And the way I'm kind of looking at it is I'm saying to myself, well, look, you know what I think about LSU. We've talked about it all year. I think they're going to win that football game. I don't think they can win the national championship without winning that football game. And if they do that, then I look at the rest of the schedule and I say, well, wait a second. When are they going to lose? I just think every team is going to lose. They're going to have a bad week. Maybe this is LSU's week. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. Some of that reasoning there. I think the bye week for Alabama is a good thing for LSU because I think they can put all their eggs in this basket. They can, there's no look ahead because it's 2 weeks. We got a week off, and you can heal up for a week emotionally, physically, and all that stuff. So I think it's a tough spot for Auburn in that regard. But Auburn has a good team, and Bo Nix has made some big plays, but their offense hasn't been great other than the Mississippi State game, hasn't against good competition. I know it was, they blew out Arkansas last week, but Arkansas is obviously struggling there. So, hey, I'm looking forward to watching the game. Should be fun, but I like LSU.
Yeah, Nix has got to grow up. This is going to be the biggest game. The last time he faced a team that's good on the road, he had an awful game. So they really need him to step up. Third road game in the last 4 weeks as well for Auburn. So
their schedule's weird. I think this is their last road game. I think they close the season with maybe 5 straight home games.
And next week we get the Florida-Georgia game. So that's awesome. So we'll get that. Again, that's why there's so many good games coming up. I just find it really hard to believe that there'll be one SEC team, even just one, undefeated. I can't see it. I just think that everybody's going to lose somehow. I'm not sure that's going to be this week, but it could be. Terrace Marshall, by the way, might be back. He's expected to be back for LSU this week.
Another weapon.
And LSU is 39 for 39 scores in the red zone, by the way. That's number 1 in the nation. That's incredible.
Yeah, they're just that offense has been so good.
Back to the Big Ten a second. I wanted to talk about that Michigan Notre Dame game. Of course, that's the night game, and I have gone against Michigan, as you know, even though they're my team. I've gone against them like 3 times in big games. Also had Army in the game. I'm completely going the other way in this one. I'm taking Michigan in this one. Matter of fact, this is going to be one of my top picks of the week. I really like the way they gut-checked last week at Penn State. I think they grew up a lot. I think that was important. If one of their better players just holds on to the ball in the end zone, they take the lead. Who knows what happens at that point? So I think even though it wasn't like Shea Patterson made a lot of big plays, he let his receivers make the plays, but he didn't do anything stupid. And that's what really was costing them in some of these other games. So I think they grew up a lot. And this rivalry is so big. Michigan, by the way, has covered 4 straight at home against Notre Dame. They lost to them, of course, last year. And I checked this out. Jim Harbaugh has never lost back-to-back games at Michigan before November. So he's had a couple of 2-game losing streaks, but never before November. So that's interesting. The home team has won 5 straight in the series. Notre Dame has moved up to a slight 1-point favorite. And if Notre Dame is going to win this game, they're going to win the game on turnovers. They lead the nation in turnover margin, number 1. Whereas Michigan, 109th.
Wow. I have no feel for this game. It's one of those, again, look forward to watching. I would pick Notre Dame on the road. You make compelling arguments for Michigan. I agree with the fact that they, even in defeat last week, it was kind of gut check time. They're on the verge of getting blown out and, on a national stage. I know every game's on national TV, but that was a,
whiteout, big
prime
game.
time ABC game. And so I like the way they kept battling back, and then they fell down 28-14 after they cut to 21-14. So liked all that, liked what I saw there. I like Notre Dame's offensive weapons. Again, Michigan's good against the run. Fun game to watch. Again, I go Notre Dame, but no strong feel in this one.
My 5-star pick, or one of my 5-star picks this week, is also going to be in the Big Ten, and that's going to be Penn State. I just look. I know Michigan State has kind of owned them recently. They've beaten them the last 2 years as dogs, 13, 10-point dogs. There's nothing about this Michigan State team unless they play their best game of the year. It could happen. It's college football. But if we just get the same Michigan State team, I have no problem giving 5 in this game. Penn State's clearly the better team. The defense is fantastic. Michigan State's got offensive line issues. You've got, matter of fact, if you look at it, you have what? The 12th ranked total defense in the nation against the 100th total ranked offense in the nation. I don't see how Michigan State's going to move the ball effectively here. They're going to need turnovers and, the young quarterback to make some mistakes. But I just love the way Penn State, their confidence is sky high. I think right now we're looking at them as a real, true national championship sleeper. They've got to get through this game, make sure they play Ohio State and stay undefeated. And that, of course, would dictate everything because they can't play and will never get the kind of respect Ohio State got a few years ago unless by losing, of course, before the Big Ten championship game and leapfrogging Ohio State the way Ohio State leapfrogged them. So they have to beat Ohio State, but first things first, they got to take care of Michigan State, and I think they're going to do it.
I'll play devil's advocate. I'll say Penn State's been outgained in 3 of their 7 wins this year. Pittsburgh had the ball on the 1-yard line to tie it up in the fourth quarter. They, beat Iowa by 5. Michigan had a drop pass away from tying the game in the fourth quarter. You could argue they're kind of flirting with disaster a little bit, and then they go on the road to play a Michigan State. This has been a strange rivalry. Weird things happen in this game. Michigan State beat them last year in State College. So I agree that I would take Penn State with the points or give the points because I like Penn State, but this wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State won this game. I just think weird things happen, and Penn State just isn't quite. I like them a lot, but maybe not quite as good as all the attention they're getting.
Okay. By the way, in the SEC, before we move on, your upset pick of the week, and I completely see where you're coming from here. I like Kentucky as well. They are a 10-point, 11-point dog in the game. They're a little bit more than a 3-1 money line. So this is going to be your upset play. Kentucky over Missouri. Kentucky covered. They're 3-0-1, by the way, ATS at home this year. Missouri has dropped both road games. So this is their 3rd road game. They just showed you what on the road last week what they do when they play outside of Columbia. So I'm here with you right as well. And Kentucky's desperate to get wins because they want to get to their 4th straight bowl. So I'm with you. I like Kentucky to pull off the upset too.
Yeah, I just think Missouri might go in there and start clicking offensively. Who knows? But that's the 2 games they've played. They've not played well on the road. The Wyoming game was a little fluky, but that offense did nothing last week. Vanderbilt held them to like 240 yards, and Kentucky's got a good defense. And at some point, you got to question. I think Missouri they got a lot of heat this week locally. I read the Columbia papers, and I have a feeling they think they can just turn on the switch and just say, "Oh, that was one bad game. We're going to play Kentucky." And I just have a feeling Kentucky's going to be ready to go. Sawyer Smith might be back at quarterback, which would obviously help that offense. Not that he's the savior, but he's better than a wide receiver playing quarterback.
Do you think Tua, and as far as the injury, do you think that is going to have an impact moving forward? I don't know if we could just guess that he's going to be back for LSU. I'm assuming he will. But what do you think? Do you think this shouldn't be a surprise either? This is something that we talked about in the preseason is when Hurts left the program, there went your security blanket because the injury situation or the lack of play when Tua came in to rescue Hurts, they had that backup savior the last 2 years. Now, I don't know if Mac Jones is a backup savior.
Look at every elite team. Ohio State doesn't have a backup. Gunnar Hoke is the backup. Georgia doesn't have a backup. Oklahoma is a 5-star freshman, but they don't really have a backup with experience. That's just kind of the world we live in now in college football. These great teams, especially when they have young guys win the job, that all the other guys transfer. So, I don't think it'll matter this week, and who knows if I don't think any of us know. My guess is Tua will play against LSU, but just have no idea how healthy he'll be.
Another one of my top picks this week in the Big Ten, by the way, is going to be Minnesota. I'm sticking with them. Why not? They've been red hot recently.
Yep.
They've covered 4 straight, and they've won the last 3 by a 116-31 margin. So they're playing great. Matter of fact, they're getting no respect defensively as well. They're 17th ranked defensively, and when Maryland has gone up against good defenses, Josh Jackson, who looks like he's going to return this week, has had his really bad games. So I look, 16-point at home, 16-point spread at home. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned with, their next game next week, hosting Penn State, is going to be huge. Do they have a little look-ahead deal? But I think as long as they don't have that, I think they should be able to cover 16.
Yeah, I agree, and that's obviously be the biggest game of the PJ Fleck era if they win and set up next week's game. So I agree. They seem to be playing very well, and we talk every week about their underrated skill players.
Before this week's game, who's the favorite right now to come out of that division? Minnesota, Wisconsin, or someone else?
That's a great question. I think Wisconsin's the best team. So Wisconsin loses this game to Ohio State, then Minnesota would have to lose twice. And I'm looking at Minnesota's schedule. They don't play Ohio State, do they?
No.
That was part of the reason. I mean, if Wisconsin loses this game, then Minnesota could lose to Wisconsin and still go. So I'll go Minnesota right now just because of the schedule, and that's one reason this team received some buzz in the preseason because thought they were getting better and their schedule.
And PJ Fleck, who's done a tremendous job, I wanted him to be the head coach, even though we knew Ash wasn't going to get fired from Rutgers at the time. But I wanted PJ Fleck. They couldn't get him, or for whatever reason, of course. Look, he got the job at Minnesota. He wasn't going to go anywhere either for a few years. But he's a guy that coached at Rutgers, coached under Greg Schiano. Everything out of Rutgers right now is about Greg Schiano. They're an underdog to Liberty this week,
Brutal.
which I think they're going to lose. I think Liberty, matter of fact, they're like one of my 3-star picks this week because that's how bad Rutgers is. I mean, I'm sorry, but you got Hugh Freeze.
It's just been beyond bad.
Yeah, and I mean, Calvert's a quarterback. They got that receiver who's doing well, so they could score. Look. Bottom line is, I think that Rutgers, it would be a shock to me now if they don't hire Greg Schiano if he wants the job.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants the job, clearly, I agree with you there.
All right, let's go to the ACC. The Coastal is crazy again. You don't know what you're going to get every week from the Coastal. Duke's at North Carolina this week. That's a big Tobacco Road basketball rivalry. But the football rivalry has been dominated the last 3 years by Duke, which in part, it's one of the reasons I like North Carolina. Anytime you get a rivalry, seniors, if they're there for 4 years, they don't want to lose every game to their rival. So North Carolina's going to play extra hard to beat Duke. They're coming up that terrible loss with the new rule, the 2-point conversion rule, and overtime to Virginia Tech. I just think they're a better team than Duke this year anyway. They're a home team, so I'm going to take North Carolina to win that game. And I really like Pitt as one of my top picks this week against Miami. The one of the best pass rushing teams in the nation against one of the worst teams in the nation of protecting the quarterback. That's a bad mix for Miami. They're just a crazy team, Miami. I really like the way Pitt's been playing this season, and I have no problem giving 5 at home.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Pitt and North Carolina. Mac Brown won his last 8 games against Duke, so he's accustomed to beating Duke. But as you mentioned, Duke's won 3 straight there. Duke coming off a disappointing game last week against Virginia. This game's interesting because these teams are tied at 2-2, but Duke really is up against it from trying to win the division because they've already lost to Virginia and Pitt, the 2 teams that are above them. North Carolina hasn't played those 2 teams, so North Carolina can get on a little roll here. They've got a chance to win the division.
And Pitt, they've covered 5 straight games this year. We don't know if DJ Dallas is going to play for Miami. N'Kosi Perry's dealing with a shoulder injury. Michael Pinckney, the linebacker, is doubtful. Jeff Thomas is suspended. So there's a lot. And they got Florida State next week. So.
Yep. So, I mean, things obviously aren't going well for Miami right now.
All right. Now, let's turn our – and Clemson's got Boston College this week. No reason to think that there's going to be any sort of crazy upsets there, right?
Great. BC backup quarterback.
All right, let's go to the Big 12. Baylor stays unbeaten, and Iowa State just has the one conference loss to Baylor, So with Texas just squeaking by Kansas and their defense is terrible, what chances do you now give for either Baylor or Iowa State to play in the the Big 12 championship game?
You got to feel better about those chances right now. I mean, Texas goes to Baylor. Both those teams host Texas. So right now, I think you'd say both those teams would be favored at home against Texas, especially Texas's pass defense has been so bad. You got to like both these teams. And Iowa State, to me, is kind of like to compare them to a college basketball team that's, they're 11-7 in league play, but everyone knows they're better than that, and they get a high seed in the tournament and do well. It's like Iowa State has those 2 losses, but everyone, I think if you follow the sport, knows they're a good team that's playing really well right now. So I think the Big 12 race is going to be fun.
All right, I am going to make it even funner because I am going to. This is my actual top upset of the week.
Okay.
And I'm taking Kansas State. So don't spit out your water.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas State. I'm going to, along the lines of Illinois and South Carolina, one of those nobody's expecting. Klieman
to win outright?
To win outright.
Whoa. Heard it here first.
Yeah, Klieman, of course. Former DB. He's a tough coach. We know he's going to turn that program around. They've got I don't think people realize this. They're 5th ranked in the nation in pass defense. So maybe they could slow Oklahoma's passing offense a little bit. When Kansas and Oklahoma played, that game was kind of sluggish for about a half. I'm trying to find an upset that like we've seen the last couple of weeks that nobody's expecting. And you know what I think about Klieman and Kansas State. We talked about it in the beginning of the year. Maybe they've only allowed 3 touchdown passes all year. I'm going to go ahead and say maybe this is the one.
Okay. I don't agree with you, but that's
I wouldn't think you
not
should.
very bold on my part.
All right. Anyway, by the way, Texas is only a 1-point favorite against TCU.
TCU opened up as a favorite, actually. Yeah.
I like Texas in that game. I don't think they lose to TCU, but things are really going wrong there.
Right.
They need a new defense. Herman's got to hire another coordinator, probably. I mean,
Orlando's been a good coordinator. He's been with them since Houston. They've had a lot of injuries. I'd be shocked if he made a change.
So they're going to have to just do a much better job of recruiting. No question about it. And you're right. There are health issues. Of course, what's his name? Caden Stearns is missing another game. That's big. I also like Iowa State, by the way, a lot over Oklahoma State. It's a 10-point favorite. That's going to be one of my 3 stars. They're just playing too good right now, and Spencer Sanders has been awful lately.
Turnover machine.
Yeah. Let's go to the Pac-12. And if Oregon and Utah remain, they continue to win games, they don't lose, they play in the Pac-12 championship game, put on your crystal ball, the winner of that game, are they going to go to the playoffs?
Yes. Obviously, things, nothing happens in a vacuum in college football with the playoff and all that. You got to see what happens elsewhere. But I think especially Oregon, with their only loss, would be to Auburn, the last play of the game, basically, in a game that, I think the committee member would look at and say, hey, I know they lost, but Oregon might have been the better team that day.
And they got a better shot than Utah because of that, if it's that close.
Yeah, although, I think Utah losing at USC on a Friday night is forgivable. Hey, USC right now controls its own destiny. They're 3-1 in the division, and they have that tiebreaker over Utah. So if USC keeps winning and has 2 losses, that loss doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, the Pac-12 would love that, wouldn't they?
Right.
To have Utah not get to the Pac-12 championship game, and if they didn't lose the rest of the way. All right. Or by the way, good call on the upset last week in the Pac-12. You had Oregon State over Cal. Cal's quarterback situation. Maybe it's going to get better now. I want to see, is this freshman quarterback, I know he's a freshman, but is he that much worse than Monster?
I don't know. That's a good question. Monster's been a disappointment at UCLA and Cal, and too bad that Garbers got hurt because he was at least putting some decent numbers, and they're really they're not taking advantage of this great defense they have.
That's just a tough break. By the way, USC's got a ton of injuries, so keep that in mind. Their 3 top running backs are out. Their safety's out. Their star freshman may not play. Rector's out. They've got a lot of injuries. They've won 13 straight against Colorado, but I think this is going to be a close game tonight, to tell you the truth. I think Colorado's played pretty tough at home this year. Yeah,
and they need to play better. They got to a good start, beat Nebraska, beat Colorado State in those rivalry games, but they they have not looked good as late. They too have had a ton of injuries.
AAC, SMU wins a close one last night, but a win's a win. That's important, of course, if they want to get that major bowl game from the group of five. Who do you like to play in the AAC championship game right now? Because this is we've talked about it. This is a really good underrated conference. Matter of fact, you've got two of your top picks from this conference this week.
Yeah, I like Navy 3.5 over Tulane. I think Navy they've just, I don't know what happened last year. Well, we know what happened last year, some quarterback issues and some injuries. They've been really good this year. I like Memphis, potential look ahead game with SMU coming to town next week, but 10.5 over Tulsa. That offense is playing great. So I like Cincinnati, Memphis would be my pick for the
Really?
championship game. SMU has to go to Memphis. So Memphis, the schedule worked out nicely this year where they're playing both SMU and Navy at home.
And also in this conference, and by the way, I do agree with you with Navy over Tulane a little bit. I'm not picking this game because Tulane maybe had one of those games where it was inevitable they were going to have a clunker. The other thing to keep in mind, it is very important, is both of their running backs are banged up. And this is a team that needs to run the football. And when you take the Bradwell and the other kid, Dauphine, who's an electrifying player, off the field, that's a huge loss for Tulane. But I think Temple's a pretty good play, too. They're a dog against Central Florida. It's going to be raining. It's going to be colder than usual for Central Florida on a Saturday night, and Temple has won both games this year as a dog. They've covered 18 of 24 as a dog, and they've covered 8 of the last 9 as a home dog.
Yeah, good points. I'm still scarred from my Temple at SMU pick. So
but that was on the road.
Yeah, true. But no, I like the UCF playing in the tough elements aspect of that pick.
All right, let's move on now to the Mountain West Conference. And do you think the loss to BYU for Boise, even though Bachmeier didn't play in the game, is that going to really hurt the Mountain West Conference chances of representing the New Year's Six?
That's a good question because this league, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think they have more wins over Power 5 teams than any group of five. They started off the season with a bunch of wins. Wyoming's beat Missouri, San Jose State's beat Arkansas, UNLV beat Vanderbilt, and Hawaii has 2 Pac-12 wins. So there's a lot of Air Force beat Colorado. There's a lot of quality wins out there, but that hurts. But if Bachmeier comes back and they run the table the rest of the season, they'll be in that mix for the New Year's Six bowl. But that was surprising, especially with BYU's quarterback issues.
And they have a name recognition, and their starting quarterback didn't play in the game.
Yeah.
So that'll help.
So I think they can overcome that.
Air Force. Now, I like Utah State this week, and part of the reason I like it, there's got to be some distractions going on there. There's people already talking about Troy Calhoun. He's letting these players, or that's what they're saying. How can he let these players at Air Force, third player since the start of the season, that will be court-martialed for cocaine use?
Yeah, and they've had a nice bounce back season, 3-1, 5-2, but off the field distraction. Utah State played really well last week, shut down a decent Nevada offense, a game that I got completely wrong there. I thought Nevada would cover. So that Utah State defense played well.
And Utah State's got some tough games coming up. They got BYU next, then Fresno, then Wyoming, then Boise State. Donnie Hammond injured his shoulder last week against Hawaii, did not play. The kid Mike Schmidt, not the baseball player, but Mike Schmidt, came in, was Mountain West Conference Player of the Week. But that's Hawaii. This is Utah State. I think they need to have Hammond in the game. Not sure he's going to be playing on Saturday night.
Yeah. I mean, nice depth at the quarterback position there, but Utah State's defensively is a different animal.
Conference USA, will Western Kentucky play UAB in the Conference USA title game?
Let me just Western Kentucky's been a surprise. I think we talked about them last week. I've been kind of on them from a picking them against the spread because they lost to Central Arkansas in the opener, then lost to Louisville before we knew Louisville was improved. Marshall was the pick before the season, but I think Western Kentucky. So you like Western Kentucky and UAB? Louisiana Tech has not played. Where's that Louisiana Tech UAB game? Do you know off the top of your head? I can look it up real quick.
You could look it up.
Yeah, I got it right here. UAB hosts Louisiana Tech, second to last game of the season. So I will go with you. I will go UAB.
All right. And by the way, Western Kentucky, 15th ranked total defense. So
Yeah.
Clayton
And
White.
Summers is an offensive coach, which, who knew? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, Clayton White is going to be getting an opportunity to coach somewhere else the way he's been coordinating that defense. They've only given up
Yeah.
38 points in the last 4 wins. Straight up ATS, they've covered those. 15th total defense in the country, led by junior defensive end D'Angelo Malone, who's got 9 sacks, and he leads the nation with 16 tackles for loss. Marshall, 3-10 against the spread. Their last 13 is a home favorite, including 0-2 this year. I'm sticking with Western Kentucky as one of my top picks this week until they prove me otherwise in a negative light.
Yeah, they've given up 44 points in 4 league games. So obviously, like you said, getting it done defensively.
And by the way, their starting safety, Drayton, suspended. Marshall, arrested domestic battery. North Texas is your 3-star pick of the week, right? Or one of your picks of the week, I should say.
Yeah, just another pick. 3.5 over Charlotte. Charlotte has not. Their defense has been horrible this year. I think that spread. I don't know why it's so low.
I agree.
North Texas offense is great, obviously with Mason Fine. I just that spread seems out of whack to me.
I agree. In the MAC, who's going to represent the wide open West? Because our Ball State boys did it again, blowing out Toledo.
That was a shocking score.
How about that? And where's the respect? They're just a 2.5-point favorite against an Ohio team that ranks 115th in the nation in total defense. And you think Ball State wants this game? They lost 52-14 to Ohio last year.
Yeah, Ball State was one of my picks against the spread. On our website, athlonsports.com, I do 10 games against the spread. So that Ball State-Toledo score was shocking when I saw it. And just too bad Kent State couldn't have beat Ohio last week, lost by 7. We'd be headed to the Ball State-Kent State championship game. Sean Lewis, I like the hire when Kent State hired him off of Dino Baberstaff. It was kind of a risk because he was so young, but he has done a really good job there. And Central Michigan's 3-1. You look at the MAC West standings. It looks like it's reversed. Northern Illinois is in last place. Toledo's in second to last. Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Central Michigan. Literally looks like it's been reversed. Buffalo, who we likes 1-2. What's going on in the MAC?
Well, look, McElwain's coaching Central Michigan, so I think people kind of forget that he's a hell of a coach, especially at that level. They've won 4 out of 6. They've covered 6 straight. But Eastern Michigan, Chris Creighton did it again. He helped me out with that upset pick last week. Preston Hutchinson came in for Mike Glass, was 31 of 36, 357, 3 touchdowns. And I'm watching this kid throw the football, and I'm going, where's this kid been on the bench all season? It wasn't a fluke the way he was throwing the football.
They just churn out quarterbacks in Ypsilanti.
They've covered 16 of 19 as a road dog. So why wouldn't I take them this week at Toledo, who's got all sorts of quarterback issues? Not sure if their starter's going to play again this week.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan, they've been a darling of ours, and need to win this game. The loser of this game falls to 1-3, isn't completely out of it.
Who do you like, by the way? Give me a team. Is it Ball
State? Eastern Michigan. To win, I think Ball State.
Why
I don't want to just jump in anywhere. They've been playing really well. In the non-conference, I think they played NC State tough, and they played.
They did. They played FAU tough.
Yeah, so they're a solid team.
Indiana tough.
Mike News, an alum, and it was rough going the first 2 or 3 years, but they definitely got to go ahead. Hey, they lost their quarterback, Riley Neal, to Vanderbilt, who's since been benched at Vanderbilt. But, they again, just churning out quarterbacks in the MAC.
Yeah, Plitt has done a good job at quarterback. Huntley's had a nice season at running back. All right, in the Sun Belt, Appalachian State, what are their chances to capture the New Year's Six bowl game?
Pretty good, undefeated right now, and I think they are a program that gets a lot of respect. I think more, more so than they deserve. Calling up their remaining schedule here, they get at South Alabama, Georgia Southern. They go to South Carolina. If they can beat South Carolina,
that is huge. That's it.
They're in. Because they close the season at Troy. Right now on their schedule, they will be heavily favored in all, every game except the South Carolina game. And Troy's been,
good, but don't forget Georgia State is having a nice year, and they host Appalachian State.
Yes, they do. I should give Georgia State more credit. Obviously, the win against Tennessee, they've won 3 straight games, beat Army last week. Yep. They have a nice win over Arkansas State there. So the Sun Belt is going to be kind of fun. Looks like we both like what's going on at Louisiana. Billy Napier is doing a good job there. but it looks like maybe the three best teams are in the East.
Yeah, that's true.
The best four, maybe.
And again, you've got Zach Thomas, who's been one of the better Sun Belt quarterbacks in a while, and you've got Dentarian Evans, who's an electrifying running back. So they've got that going. I like him this week, obviously, even though it's a 26-point spread. But I also like Georgia State, even though they lost one of their top defenders, Ed Kearney, to an ACL injury last week. So that's a tough blow for Georgia State as they take on Troy. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. What do you got going on, by the way, at Athlon? Are you already you're always looking.
It's kind of a holding pattern right now, getting ready to start working on our baseball magazine. We wait till the season's over, but planning the baseball magazine and then already looking forward to football next year, looking towards football, not really starting it, but just some early planning there.
All right, well, don't jinx my Nationals by doing anything weird.
I'm done with baseball after the Yankees lost. So.
Oh, okay. Yankee fan from the South. Okay. They're
right,
all over the country.
I grew up in New Jersey. I had season tickets
right.
growing.
Yeah, New Jersey boy.
I went to the old Yankee Stadium probably 150 times in my life.
Where in New Jersey?
Small town called New Providence in Union County, north central Jersey.
Okay.
So.
I grew up Union City.
Okay.
In Hudson County.
Okay,
so,
not too far.
Yeah, my bedroom, I wake up and look, and right there's the Statue of Liberty. That was pretty cool to wake up. And,
what a patriot. What a patriot you are.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, as always, Mitch. We'll talk to you next week.
All right.